All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Wednesday. Um, Actually, maybe we'll have some good um, rest of the month as we go forward. Looking forward to less and less threats of snow, and more sunshine and better evenings. So it's a nice reminder that things are getting better, especially this week as we try and go through things. We want less stress that's happening, right? The theme of the week, trying to deal with mental stress, the different levels of it that can come in, and making sure there's a plan to deal with each one, maybe how to be aware of it and identify it and what to do. So, just some review of the email that went out on Monday. When you're dealing with mild stress and you kind of sense that going on, or you can hear it, I would say that having that list of daily activities that we've talked about, things you can go do, people to talk to try and deal with it. Kind of like don't let it accumulate. When you tolerate it, you don't really know what's going to happen tomorrow. So the more daily activities of coping that you can do, the better to deal with those mild stress events that come. If it tends to start to become moderate stress, whether it's something that accumulates over the course of a few days or it's something you haven't encountered in a while, it usually means it's something that's not a normal routine, something that's familiar to you. We use one of our favorite words around here, margin, right? If you create margin and bring some extra resources to that, maybe you start talking to a peer, or you take a half day off, or you're able to dedicate some extra hours to it, it probably will take that more than just a daily response to stress. And then the highlight of if it's severe stress, these are things that make it hard for you to sleep, eat, function at work, do the things you have to do with responsibilities. It really is like a barrier. And you start to notice that impact, or somebody around you starts to notice that impact. Severe stress certainly can come from things that accumulate not just in days, we're talking more of weeks into months type thing. Or the other side of that spectrum is it's something that's quick, sudden, and profound, will lead to some severe stress. So if you've been in things to pay attention to, a sudden loss of somebody, the opportunity to try and help them in a situation, someone you care about, even if they go through something major, that can create some severe stress in you. Or you go through a car accident and something else. Those are all examples of things that can be either really profound and immediate and overwhelming, or a stress that lingers for several weeks. So this month being Stress Awareness Month, we just wanted to cover that this week to be remindful of, instead of downplaying your stress level, there are things you can do to make that stress level a little bit easier. In fact, challenging everybody to be prepared for stress with those homework assignments, to write out the list of two things. One is a list of activities you can do to deal with stress. Hopefully, you have a longer list in your mind, if not a literal list you've been able to make, but also a list of activities to not do when you're stressed. One of the things I've done through the years is called critical incident stress debriefing for fire, paramedics, police who've responded to a significant event. And on the handouts, what we talk about is lay off the caffeine, lay off the sugars, because it's really easy just to kind of dive into those things to deal with symptoms that aren't going away, and to just kind of try and live on an edge of energy. So having a list of things that you would not do if you're in a stressful situation. Typically on top of that is, alcohol tends to work to help people forget things. So try and avoid that whenever a stress level is coming into play, because generally it doesn't allow you to be your best. Um, and then the second homework assignment was throughout the past couple of years, you posted this stress inventory. So there's a link on that email that came out. Go ahead and um, click on it, take your stress level, see what's going on, and just find out what's going on. I like that one that's listed because if your score is high enough, it says you have a 50% chance of a breakdown in the months ahead if you don't do anything about it. So it's a little bit of, formative information to say pay attention to things. But you also have a chance to read this list. I think it's 25 items, and just to see how they score stressful events. And some of those on there will surprise you, others will not. Um, but it's just a nice activity just to kind of get a gauge on your stress level in terms of a baseline, call it that way. An annual blood test tells you how you're doing, compare it from one to the next, and you can take that stress inventory and do the same thing. So that's the review of Monday. But thinking of stressful things that we all encounter, we all have different lives, but we all have to live through April 15th. in terms of tax day. So here's some random facts about taxes throughout different places in the US and the world. So any of you that gamble know this: if you win more than $5,000 in the lottery, the IRS automatically takes 24% of your winnings. This is why they like when the mega ball gets up to like 2 billion, right? You get a lot of money that goes in, and then they take more tax time for you. So watch out for the lottery, right? This is interesting. When the IRS started requiring dependents to be on tax returns in 1987, that seemed like not too long ago, 7 million kids vanished from returns, which I thought was interesting. Oh, suddenly I don't have kids anymore. Too expensive. In 2009, citizens in Hubei, China were all ordered to smoke so the government could continue to have the revenue from sales tax, because so many people stopped smoking, so it became a requirement to buy cigarettes. This one's interesting. Maybe it ties to incompetence or not checking things out. Madison Square Garden has been exempt from New York property taxes since 1982. This is the location where the New York Knicks and New York Rangers play. The agreement was only supposed to be for 10 years. However, it was worded incorrectly, so the exemptions will stay in effect as long as they keep playing their home games there. So that's a little boo-boo right there, whoever wrote that contract. The Rhode Island Individual Income Tax Return, the RI 1040, has emoticons on it. There's a frowny face on the total amount due line and a smiley face on the amount overpaid line. Terrible. Bribes were tax deductible in Germany until 2002. What does that say about that time frame? Okay, this one I like. May we all reach it or have Wisconsin do the same thing. In New Mexico, you're exempt from filing and paying income taxes when you turn 100. I think that's a nice little gift. Right? You've done it long enough, you're fine. Right? So, Rich, you got a few years left to advocate in Wisconsin for them to do it. And then finally, I mean, even this number's old. The U.S. federal tax code was only 400 pages in 1913, but by 2010 it rose to 70,000 pages. So if you have a CPA, it's good to use one, because it's probably well above 70,000 pages right now. Pretty brutal. Anyway, those are some things about taxes, more reasons to either like or dislike April 15th. It's up to you as you go forward. But may we all live to 100 and move to New Mexico, right? Bringing some questions back to us in regards to stress. What is your first choice for coping? What helps you deal with stress when you encounter a stressful situation? Come home like, man, I had a stressful day. I need to blank. Nap. That's good. Anybody else? Spend time with puppies. That's good. Go for a walk. I like it. Any friends? Read a book. Yep. Any others? Yeah. Yeah. Gold Star, another sticker, right? Those are just, I mean, good examples of what happens. Certainly anything you can do that's more physical oriented. If there's been some stress that's built up physiologically, then you have a chance to be able to actually release those chemicals that have accumulated inside throughout the day. So it's a good thing to keep in mind. We also know that being outside, laughing with friends, right, opens and increases blood flow, so you feel a little bit more about yourself. Likely when you're in a stressful situation, you're breathing less, like less deep. You're not getting as much oxygen, so to be around friends and have some fun will open things back up again and probably feel better. So just citing that one, that comes into play. Second question, what is the best advice you've been given about not letting stress rob you of your peace of mind? Thinking about those daily stressors that come in, or maybe some moderate stress, and you're just like, can't stand it. What's the advice someone's given you that's really helps? It's not that serious.
Day in and day out crap.
Hmm.
Really come to think about it. What does stressing about it do for you?
Hmm.
Won't matter in a week,
Okay.
a year, whatever.
So perspective,
Yeah.
feedback that gives you perspective about it. Other advice that's come, whether it's mild, moderate, or severe stress. What's been a good piece of advice that's come your way?
Scheduling and margin.
Scheduling and margin. Yeah. Love it. I certainly would answer my own question and say the overwhelming evidence, I think, is that people endure stress longer than they need to because they minimize it in their own head and say it's not bad enough. But that's where when you notice that the routine is starting to shift, personality, energy levels are starting to shift. And even when it gets to physiological components, like I haven't slept well for 3 weeks, or my appetite's been diminished, right? Sometimes those are the biggest clues. Someone's like, I've lost 10 pounds and I haven't even been trying because their body just has stopped functioning a certain way. Those are just some things to pay attention to. So try and answer my own question with pay attention to your body, because usually that's a bellwether about what kind of stress are you under. The other one that really stands out a lot, I call the echo effect that happens when someone walks in a room and whoever's stressed is kind of in their head and chewing on things and they're kind of distant, and someone like whispers a question. They're like, hey, how you doing? And the person responds with really big intensity, stop asking me. It's some kind of absurd response. And I think what's going on is someone just walked in as an innocent kind of bystander or scapegoat, and just it was one more straw. So if you ever catch yourself kind of unloading on somebody unexpectedly, pay attention to that. So that'd be some advice I'd pass on to everybody else. If your responses are disproportionate to what they just said or did, then really start talking to somebody, a friend, mentor, family member, and if it needs to be, people wait too long to go to counseling, so keep that in mind. So some final comments here about managing stress when it comes. Mental fatigue with stress drains your emotions and keeps you from thinking about joy. This is an important one. I wanted to tie that in just because it becomes so exhausting to deal with stress mentally that you kind of absorb into yourself and you can't have that perspective around you. All your emotions start to be like that gray overcast cloud that comes a lot in March that we don't like. And then you're trying to think, what really does matter? You spend a lot of your time thinking of what's not working, and suddenly that feeling of joy or happiness gets further and further away. So another clue that maybe your stress level needs to be dealt with. I've hinted at this already this morning. If you're tolerating stress longer than you ought to, it's going to exacerbate other things. Right? Mental stress starts to emotionally become overwhelming, and it's not far from there that physical distress follows because you haven't slept right, you haven't healed right, your body's not recovering the right way from certain things because all your energy is drained and focused on your brain working on overdrive. So it just kind of takes everything, kind of like hypothermia, just pulls everything into the core of the body in those really difficult situations. And as important as your hands or feet are, your body's like your heart's more important. Same thing with stress and how the body responds. Is all that energy goes to the brain, and it's difficult to be that emotional person you want to be and self-controlled, but it also starts to exacerbate some of those other physical aspects. So keep that in mind. Certainly caring for your body, it is that idea of be quick to act. Whether you have physical pain, you have mental stress, or you have emotional distress, any one of those should be red flags. Too often, people tolerate discomfort. And around here that we don't want anybody to tolerate things and just think this is the way it has to be, or this is normal, like from a standpoint of I have to accept this without ever fighting it or taking it on. So if you have distress in any one of those areas, mental, emotional, physical, they're all going to interplay. So when you have a list of things to deal with stress from a mild standpoint, great. When it gets to a moderate level, have somebody to talk to or something more regular to do so you can knock it out if it's affecting the majority of your week. And if it becomes severe, whether through chronic accumulation through weeks into months, or if it's a sudden, overwhelming kind of, even if we say traumatic event, be willing to go do something more. Or else this body you guys work so hard at around the gym here, you can easily be hollowed out from the inside because of that mental stress that comes. So trying to be as consistent as possible with this April Stress Awareness Month. Looking at next week, we kind of head into an opportunity as we've gone through physical and mental. We kind of talk about some hard stuff and just when people encounter stress, sometimes they go through events that cause them to ask some really big, either existential questions, things like that. So we'll just kind of touch through how to handle those situations when you encounter it. So a big month, but just trying to be faithful to the things that do exist. Everyone will go through April 15th. So whatever causes you stress, make sure you have a plan. All right, good to see everybody. Have a good workout this morning.